Right now, we are hearing about a man who may be rising in popularity in Israel, and his name is Rav Shlomo Yehuda. Some are calling him Elijah or the Messiah, saying the man has performed miracles, and it looks like he might have crowds of people and even prominent rabbis following him around. At least that's what some people are saying right now across social media. Now, Jesus told his followers to watch for the signs of his coming. Is this an end time sign or just a story that's been blown out of proportion? Today, I have Pastor Mark Biltz, author of Decoding the Antichrist and the End Times, to discuss what is going on and what we really should be looking out for. Welcome to Charisma News.
Hey, great.
How you doing, Pastor Mark?
I'm doing great.
So tell everyone a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. I'm Pastor Mark Biltz. I started Shaddai Ministries about 20 years ago, and our goal was to take Torah to the nations, or God's word to the nations. And so as of now, we have about 300 cities and 30 nations that live stream. Our audience is around 250,000. And we just have a fun time taking people to Israel and learning all about the background of the New Testament.
So tell us a little bit about what you've heard on this man, Rav Shlomo Yehuda, in Israel right now.
Sure. I have a lot of real good friends in Israel that are high up in the administration. Also, they're very well-known Orthodox Jews, and most of them have never even heard of him before. The ones I have talked to that don't know him looked at some things and said he's a complete wacko. It's kind of like Christians with, I think, David Koresh or some of these other old, in the past have claimed to be the Messiah or something like that. But right. This isn't going to take off. I'm not sure, but I think this is within the organization called Chabad. Mm-hmm. But when you realize the religious Jews in Israel make up only about 3%. And then of that 3%, this group is like 0.1% of those. So he's making a big stir within his own little cult group, but none of the secular Jews, I mean, like 99% of Israel doesn't even know him. And so people are jumping on this bandwagon. Christians are passing it around on the media, but that's not what Israel believes. 99% of Israel think he's a wacko. So you can't assume that this is some big movement that's happening throughout the nation of Israel or the Jewish people.
Right. And I think that's kind of the thing with social media. It's so hard to know, is this really what's going on? You see people following, and it's really easy to kind of create this narrative. But obviously, this has been debunked. It's not some big movement or thing that's happening right now. But the reason that we wanted to have you on here is to help people. You are extremely literate in the Bible and in the end times and everything that the Bible has to say. And so I wanted you to share a little bit about what people should be looking out for. We talked a little bit beforehand about this year, 2023, and how important it is. So if you could share a little bit about what we were talking about.
Sure. Most people don't know, but Abraham, the time frame from Adam to Abraham was born in 1948. For heaven's sake, that is the year Israel became a nation, in 1948. And then what do we also know? Abraham was 75 years old when he entered the promised land and received the promise that he would inherit it. Well, if you add 75 to our 1948, that's 2023. That is this year we're now approaching. Can you believe it? 2023 is the very year that Abraham also entered the promised land, received the promise for the promised land. And again, it happened on an appointed time, not just any day. It happened on Passover. I mean, this is incredible. So as far as this coming year, and since people also don't know, this is a Jubilee year. Most people know this last year was a Shemitah year, but where there's 7 Shemitah years in a Jubilee cycle. How do we know that we're in a Jubilee year now? Basically, it's called math. Okay, so the year 5782 was the biblical year right before Rosh Hashanah this year. Well, 5782 is divisible by 7. Wow, that way you know it's a Shemitah year. And guess what? It's also divisible by 49. This
Mhm.
is why we know the year that's we're in now is a Jubilee year. So
Okay.
it's not some mystical thing no one can ever know. As a matter of fact, I have the complete list of every Shemitah year and every Jubilee year all the way back to creation. Till
Wow.
and if anybody wants that chart of all the Jubilees and Shemitah years, they can just, email me at markbiltz@msn.com and I'll send it to them. But it's all plainly there. So, but this is why this year is so insignificant, because it is a Jubilee year and it's the very year Abraham received the deed to the promised land.
Wow. So there's obviously a lot going on, and there's a lot that people hear and they see, and it's hard to know, we hear about the rumors of war and all of these famines and everything going on, and they're like, is this the end times? Is it not? What's going on? So, what are some key important things that you would say we should really be keeping an eye out for in this hour?
That's very, very important. Good question. I think a lot of people, believe it or not, I have a big surprise. The prophet Daniel, was he Jewish? Of course he was Jewish. Okay. Well, everyone's familiar with Daniel's 70 weeks, and there's 1 week left, which refers to the 7 years, but it's a Shemitah cycle. It's not any random 7 years. So guess what? There's 1 Shemitah cycle left for the tribulation, which means if the tribulation doesn't start this year, it can't start for 7 more years, because
wow.
the first year of the tribulation has to begin the first year of a Shemitah cycle. Because
wow.
does that make sense?
Yeah,
See, this is huge.
that is huge.
So the tribulation can't start any day. It can't start any month. It can't start any year. God is on schedule. He has a divine appointment. So will the tribulation start this year? We'll have to wait and see. By the end of the year, I think we will know. If not, well, guess what? We don't have to worry about it for 7 more years. Just like the 7 years of famine for Joseph lasted 7 years after the 7 years of prosperity. And so what we have to realize, God works in 7-year segments. He's not random. So if it doesn't happen this next year and doesn't unfold, well, you can, hold your breath for till the next first year of the Shemitah cycle.
This might be an obvious question, but how would people know if we're in the tribulation?
No, that is a good question. I think one thing, we should see some kind of a covenant made to divide the land of Israel. That is huge. I think that would be huge. The other thing is if someone, like if we see one of the 2 witnesses. Now, of course, many believe the 2 witnesses are supposed to show up at Passover, which is in Judaism, why they always put a cup for Elijah out at Passover. So if we see some people showing up in Jerusalem this Passover, well, we'd have to, see what they teach, because what's scary, Shelby, is that the Antichrist and the false prophet are going to do miracles. So you can't follow the miracles. The miracles are supposed to follow you. Okay. But the problem is everyone's looking to follow or not follow someone who's performing all these miracles. When you study what Elijah and Moses do, they cause major problems. They turn water to blood. They kill everyone who opposes them. They have fire fall from heaven. And so I believe many are going to look at Moses and Elijah and think they're the Antichrist, because when you read Revelation, all of the nations rejoice that they're finally dead. And then the Antichrist shows up. He's the one who kills them. And everyone's going to think that must be the Messiah, because he destroyed these 2 evil people who were causing problems for mankind. And so it's going to be, the elect will really be tested. Because you will think the Antichrist is coming first, but it's actually going to be God's 2 witnesses warning everyone. And then the Antichrist is going to show up, and he'll probably be like Solomon. In my book, Decoding the Antichrist, I talk about how Solomon is actually a type of Antichrist. Now, that's shocking for people, but they got to get the book, and I back it up all with scripture. So we have to realize there's going to be someone who's going to come and solve the Middle East problems. He might be some slick willy preacher preaching, Christianity and Judaism and Islam all needs to come together. We just need to love one another. Look what's happening right now in the world. What people call love isn't love at all. and you look at all this transgenderism and everything going on, we're living in a crazy world. But I really think a lot of people are going to be deceived. Look at how many people were rushing to get the COVID vaccine. I'm not upset about the COVID vaccine. I don't care if you get it or didn't get it. But the point is, I believe, and this is what is shocking, people are going to run to get the mark of the beast. Even many Christians are going to run to get the mark of the beast. So that's what we have to be aware of, because they're going to see it as, hey, I'm going to be destroyed economically. I can't travel. They're going to do everything they can to justify it in their own mind.
Now, will they, because from my understanding, they would know like that you're not going to get like tricked into taking the mark of the beast.
I agree. I agree. You're not going to be tricked. I think that you have to know, but it says people will be so deceived. That's just it. They're going to think, well, this can't be my loving Jesus. I keep him in my pocket. I pull him out when I need him. And so anyway, I think there's going to be a great deception, even though people are going to know.
Okay. Wow.
That's what's scary.
This is why people need to know and be literate in the Bible and what's going on. And you are an incredible teacher of the Hebrew language and really helping to understand, because we were talking before, the translation into English, it's just not good for really understanding and capturing the culture of the day and what's going on. So for people who, and really everyone who's listening needs to do this, want to become more in tune with what the Bible really says, they can follow and join you on your lives where you do teachings. Now, how can people connect with you for that to join in?
Sure. They can go to YouTube or Facebook or a website. It's just esm.us for El Shaddai Ministry, esm.us. 10 o'clock on Saturday mornings Pacific time, you can do it live. But you can also watch it later because it's archived. But what's amazing to me is we will have people in Australia, in France, in Sweden, all in Africa, all joining live. And I'm thinking, you crazy people, it's 4 a.m. Why don't you wait till you wake up? But they say, no, there's nothing like watching it live. So whatever time zone you're in, it's 10 in the morning on Saturdays, our time. But do go back to the archive messages anytime, and you'll see that it's not milk and cookies that we teach. It's meat and potatoes. So it's good stuff.